some capacity.
Yeah, same. I gotta get up too.
So we're not gonna make this too long. Let's see. I just want to make sure it comes up properly, which it should. People are gonna be like, "What the fuck are you doing streaming at midnight?" But like, I mean, like movies were important to people, so we tried to give people the ability to watch movies. Okay, the stream's live. If you wanna hang in the chat, you can. Don't ignore the thumbnail. That's the title's right, but the thumbnail isn't. But that's because I didn't make a note. Damn! Jesus Christ, Static! You got here real quick. Jesus Christ! It's like I went live and someone's already appeared. All right.
Dang.
What's up, Static? Yeah, this
What's
is very.
up?
This is very. Tell me if you can hear Tyrone. You should be able to hear Tyrone.
Hey.
Heyo.
It is super late.
Hey, Tyree.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Let me. The only thing I need to fix is the.
I'm
chat.
still gonna tweet it. Why not?
What are we doing tonight?
Right.
The same thing we do every night. We try to take over the world and then stream.
We try to wreck the Pokemon fucking fan base.
Oh no, that's been ruined.
Damn.
We can't do nothing else to that fucking fan base. That's hell in a handbasket. Okay, 8 viewers. Hey, Jazz.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna sing a song that I just made up in a few seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my team down the victory road. I'm gonna catch till I can't no more. Gonna take my team down the victory road. I'm gonna catch till I can't no more.
Oh no.
Got Ponyta in the bag, Galari in attack. The team is getting stacked, so you know that shit is bad. Cause can't nobody tell me nothing.
Yo.
Nobody tell me nothing.
This shit threw me off. Okay, they're saying they can hear you in the chat.
The national deck is straight up crumbling. It's time for us to get tumbling.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so
the victory road.
You can. Okay, so Tyrone is hearable. That's great. I'm gonna get copyright claim because I'm pretty sure that song doesn't belong to Tyrone completely.
Oh, come on.
Not completely. I think
it's a parody.
Show Pro's gonna get you. Show Pro's gonna get you.
But it's a parody.
Jazzy, I would have invited you, but time is not the essence right now, unfortunately. So that's why it's just me and Tyrone.
Oh wow, we got 12 people. All right.
Yeah, this is crazy. I didn't think people be up. I shouldn't be up, to be fair, but fuck it. I give myself like a good hour. I should be fine.
Sword and Shield is out. Reviews are giving clout.
Oh shit! I feel like you just freestyling at this point.
Yeah, I am. I was freestyling the whole thing actually.
Oh, were you? Okay.
I made all of that up.
The first part seemed like you had already thought about it beforehand.
Nope, I thought of all that up. I was bullshitting the whole time.
I know. Everyone in the chat tell Tyrone to make a mixtape. That's what the fucking needs to happen right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not gonna go through my usual intro in the sense of like me going through all the pretty much what I do for the stream. So I'm like, fuck it. This is very impromptu because I didn't plan to do this today until like around, I want to say like afternoon, and then Tyrone obviously is an adult, so he had obligations. So that's why this is happening.
This is what happens when you balance out your people that live in your house with the people that you're friends with online.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk. This will be the final video we both make before the game comes out. The next video you'll at least get from me about this will be like a review or like first impressions, depending on how long it is before I make that video. So what partially spurred this on was the hashtag that was going around this morning, which was hashtag Game Freak lied, which I came to learn as essentially was just a complaint. Pretty much someone had like more damning evidence that like proved supposedly that the models that they used from Sword and Shield were from other games. But I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but I could have swore this conversation had happened like a few months ago. Like I thought we had already kind of address this?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was like the big thing then. Like, oh, we can prove these models are from the 3DS because Game Freak made high quality models and then downscaled them for the 3DS games. So I'm like, so what? Why is it new news today? Like, I don't understand what.
Because the game is out and it's getting praise from the reviews, so they got to find some way to like destroy the clout it's getting.
Well, ironically enough, Tyrone, that came out. That shit was happening before the reviews started coming in, and then the
Mm-hmm.
reviews came in, and people were mad. Like, it's funny how IGN can be controversial even when they're positive.
Right. It's so weird. Normally it's the other way around.
No, Orion Sword, it's not another manic episode. This is very impromptu, random shit. Um,
So yeah, normally it's the other way around. Normally IGN or any it's like it's the same generic Pokemon game and they give it like a mediocre score and then everybody gets mad. Now it's like they gave it a positive score and everybody's flipping shit.
yeah, I heard pretty much the one like publication that got the most notorious review was probably a Eurogamer, and Eurogamer doesn't give scores. They just kind of really ripped into the game. I've heard varying reports, and I now know certain things that I didn't know before. Like, I think it's in Eurogamer's review that I find out apparently we're back to the whole gym leaders having other things they do besides being gym leaders, or like they're shown outside of their gyms, which
Mm-hmm.
to me is cool as fuck. And then from Game
Yeah.
Explain's review, I found out the escape rope is a permanent item. It's like a key item now. It's not,
Yeah. Wait. Yay.
well, and so here's and this is kind of the part that pissed me off. So obviously everyone's making their videos talking about why they're not buying the games and trying to get into this controversy. But I want to sit here and make my legitimate criticisms and like my issues with the fandom. Um, the first thing I want to address, and I don't know if Tyrone will agree or not, is that one of the things that frustrates me is that we had a bunch of bitching about all these issues. Like, I don't know if you've seen the video, but the animation
Mhm.
with the character not moving but like turning 80 degrees,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that shit, and then like how some of the characters pop in and the draw distance is really short and
Mhm.
whatnot. The problem I have is that last year these same people bitching bought a game that to me is objectively worse than what this game is right now. From the information we know, even without playing it, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee objectively is a worser game than Sword and Shield.
I can agree to that. I mean, I know now. I know Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee is low key trying to reach out to its Go audience, the people who play the mobile game. So it's like a baby's Pokemon game tying in that happens to be taped to the main series game. I understand that because I when I bought Let's Go Eevee, I wasn't playing it in the same seriousness that I was playing the other Pokemon games. I was more or less just lulling through it. So I get that, and yes, under that circumstance, if you were to grade this, it's two ways to grade it. If you were to grade it as a family game to get people who are into the mobile game into the Pokemon game, I think it's good, but it's not worth its price of $60. Not at all. It's
Right.
worth, I would say, $35 to $40 at least. I mean, to the max. I'm sorry, to the max. But if you were to grade it as a Pokemon game on the same standard as Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, etc., 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 all the way up till now, it is the lowest, one of the lowest tier Pokemon games, right up there with X and Y, and debatably Sun and Moon.
Now,
Ultra Sun and Moon. I'm sorry.
I noticed in the chat they're mentioning that, oh, well, the game wasn't, and like you said, the game's not a mainline game. The reason why I make that comparison though is because some of the same issues that are in that people are complaining about in Sword and Shield are also in Let's Go.
Mm-hmm.
And my issue is that like no one was bitching last year about the fact that characters turned or glided into a certain angle and then walked in or walked off screen and shit. No one, I don't know if the game has slowdown, so I won't make that argument or pop in.
I don't. It doesn't have much. It doesn't have much. I think Moltres is usually the culprit for that, and I didn't see any from Moltres. Moltres, I say Moltres because Moltres and Rapidash and those Pokemon, the ones with the fire constantly coming from their bodies, they are the ones that usually are the suspects for most of the frame drops. That and Alolan Muck for some reason.
That one kind of makes sense because of like the sludge animation. Like
Yeah, the sludge is changing colors. Like
it's a
I know in Sun and Moon, if you have like if you have 4 Alolan Mucks on the field at the same time, it almost slows down to a freaking log. It's crazy.
and see, and like that kind of got into like my main issue. I'm like, a game came out last year that had very similar issues. And granted, even the issues for fucking like Sword and Shield, where people were freaking out about these animations, I'm like, yeah, but these were the same animations you bought a year ago, and a year before that, and a year before that. They've been doing that kind of animation since 2013. And here's the thing: that doesn't excuse it, right? I understand as a developer, you were supposed to improve your quality as your game series goes on. So I'm not excusing it. I'm not really even talking down to the people who want to boycott the game. The problem is there's a bunch of fucking people who won't. There's a bunch of people who will claim all this nonsense on fucking Twitter or in fucking YouTube and whatever for the clicks and the clickbait, and then in the next week they'll go ahead and get the game, which then makes my point go, well, if your whole argument was to improve Game Freak and to make things better, you failed because you just told them that no matter what you say, you're full of shit because you're gonna buy the game anyway.
You want to know what I find really funny about this, and this is vaguely related, but I want to just talk about the Sonic trailer for a second because it kind of ties into this, where criticism can be taken 2 ways. Either the criticism is taken, learn, adapt, and improve on it, or you give in, do nothing, and then it stays the exact same way. In which, like here, the complaint of Pokemon was what they were doing and how they were handling these things. Issues that have never really been tackled before, but they still clearly exist.
Right.
And Pokemon hasn't fixed at least those issues yet. But now people want to go ahead and trash Pokemon for the other things. But what are they doing? They're still buying the game. They're still going out and, they're going to buy it. And it's almost like it's self-harm. It's almost like they're trying to buy it specifically to point out every little flaw to trash it.
But it doesn't. But if you're still giving the company that you're sick of the bullshit from money.
So you end up with this parasitic cycle from both teams. The people who are criticizing and from Game Freak.
And actually, Tyree, you brought up the point I was also going to bring up. The problem, now my other issue with this whole thing is not only the hypocrisy behind it, but also the next level hatred that's come from it.
Yeah, some of this is uncalled for.
Yeah, listen, fine. I don't care. Like, okay, fine. You have all these issues. I don't care about you pointing out the flaws in these games. People have been doing that on YouTube pretty much since this whole National Dex thing started. But, like, harassing the developers on some like evil like fuck you type of shit, or like harassing the people who are excited for the game. I've seen people who've just been like, I'm ready for the game to come out, and then someone will come in the comments and be like, fuck you, you're supporting a shitty ass company. And it's like, not everyone plays the games for the same reason. Like,
right, because primarily this spurred from the National Dex issue, right? The other problems that exist in Pokemon that they've been pointing out on Sword and Shield at least have been problems that kind of existed in Pokemon just in general.
Yeah, most of them have been issues since at least.
It's just, I think now because Pokemon's finally entering the console plateau, they're pointing them out as bigger issues.
No, I think the frustration was always there. This was finally the cop out to give them
like the National Deck was pretty much the green light for them to get started.
Which is to me is stupid, because you should have been, if you had these issues beforehand. And listen, I can recognize that I can be a part of the problem in the sense that I bought the games, right? Like, because if I, but the difference,
I'm buying both.
But the difference is that like my issues, none of the issues people are pointing out has never been like the issues that like would deter me from buying the game.
Right.
I do agree. Okay, Ultimate Zuki, I do agree that the game needs to be for both. It is a struggle to do that, and I think Game Freak isn't good about handling its criticism.
Well, part of me, and I made a video about this, I said part of me was like, that's kind of why I felt like the Let's Go games were made in the first place, was to help make that split. Because when Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was announced, they also said in 2019 later, we will make another Pokemon mainstream. We will make a mainstream RPG Pokemon game. So in my brain, I felt like Let's Go was like that way to separate some of the younger players, the more casual, so they can play the Let's Go game. And while they're playing that, they can focus more on the mainstream Pokemon game, which in this case would be Sword and Shield.
And the kicker with that is it kind of goes with what KG was saying earlier in our chat, where he was like, he feels like these games are catered towards the competitive scene, which,
Right.
as much as people are like, that's not enough, the competitive scene's like, fucking finally, because the shit doesn't.
Yeah, I will admit, even I myself love creative changes that they've done to help the competitive scene.
This is like the first game that's really even appealed to the adults of the franchise in a while. The last game to kind of do that was Generation 5.
Right.
Because 6, I view
And
as
that was because of its story.
And the problem I have, though, is that the Pokemon fan base, I feel like we're focusing on the wrong things even back then. Like, people were over here focusing on the Megas and the Z moves. And I'm like, to me, that's not what the issues of Pokemon lie is. And I have some suggestions of things that I would prefer them do. One of which I'll go ahead and mention.
Yeah, I was like, let's tackle them one by one.
I would personally believe that this is the only Pokemon. This is the last game. This is the last mainline game on the Switch. And the reason why I say that is I feel like the rest of the next, I don't know, maybe year, two, I would say at least 2, maybe 3 years should be dedicated to patches of the game, maybe possibly DLC, and just like improving the game. Because the biggest, and this would fix 2 issues for me. The first issue is you're putting out games too fucking much. And I think I mentioned this to you guys during our Emerald recording session yesterday. I was like, Pokemon is like the only RPG franchise that for some reason comes out this fucking consecutively. No other RPG franchise comes out this consistently. And the reason why is, one, because fans eventually get burnt out on that shit. I mean, think about it. If let's say you bought Let's Go when it first came out, which was what, November last year?
Mm-hmm.
You bought it in November.
It's literally the exact same time.
Most casual playthroughs weren't going to beat that game until like early this year. Like, most people probably didn't get through that game. Some people probably got through it in like 2 months. But think about Smash Brothers came out like around the same time. So I imagine either you blitzed through the game or you didn't finish until like January, maybe February. And then you got the announcement of a new title that comes out like 8 months later. No one's playing RPGs, especially Pokemon RPGs, back to back that quickly. And the kicker is you can't dive into them. Like, that was like my big frustration with Black and White 2. Black and White 2 had so much shit in it, but it came out like the year before X and Y did. So, like, you never got to really focus the time you wanted to that game unless you just said fuck X and Y. So the reason why I say let this be the only Generation 8 game is, one, you have a console you could do. Hell, you could have did on the 3DS.
Right.
But we're past that, so we can't address it now. But my suggestion is, don't put out another Generation 8 game. Patch this one, update it. If you want to release a definitive version of it that includes some DLC, that's fine. I'm cool with that, because that means now we have a 3-year development cycle for the next game with no fucking, like, new game interrupting that shit.
Especially considering the fact that in Pokemon, like, most RPGs usually last a lot longer because they add quests and stuff, but essentially the characters you have are usually, for the most part, limited. In Final Fantasy, you usually have a team of about 3 to 6 people. Pokemon has a roster of almost 1,000 characters. So I feel like there should always be a chance to do there's a legendary Pokemon coming out in this event this next month, or there's a secret quest you can do that adds to the story or lore. Like, there's so much. The part I'm upset about with Pokemon in general, and you brought this up, is that you can make their game last longer based on just the potential they have alone. They have so much potential to expand upon one game, but they never use any of it because guess what? The next game's already announced by the time you beat the last game. So it's like I beat Black and White too, but XY already got announced like right after I was done with the Pokemon League. So it's like, well, here's all this post game shit that I can't even enjoy for real. Or if I'm enjoying them and I'm just playing it to buy me a little time before the actual game I'm focused on comes out.
Yeah, most RPGs are games that can last like years. You don't fucking need to release a new generation every 2 years or some shit, or every 2 to 3 years, which has been the current cycle for a while now. Like, Black and White came out in 2010, X and Y came out in 2013, Sun and Moon came out, I believe, 2016, maybe?
I want to point out what Static said too. I hate Event Pokemon too, but here's the thing. One of the reasons why is because they're handled so terribly, especially in America.
That's true.
Like in America, they're handled piss poorly. They just give you the Pokemon. Where in Diamond and Pearl, it's not the best Pokemon game, but I love the way they handled the legendary. They would give you like a ticket or an item, and you would go into the game and play the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you had the Azure Flute, you would go to Spear Pillar. I'm sorry, my throat. You would go to Spear Pillar, and then you would play the Azure Flute, and then Arceus would come down. Then you have a battle. Right. Whereas in America, in Toys R Us, they just give you Arceus. You show up to Toys R Us, they just give you the Arceus. It's at level 100, and you're done.
Hey, Donnie Yards, we're not up early. Well, I guess we are. Well, I'm up early. Tyrone's not up, or Tyrone's up late.
Yeah, I'm up late. But yeah, Terrell, you continue what you're saying. Sorry.
And so, like, that's just the first change for me personally. It's just to cut that shit out.
Yeah. Don't give us Pokemon. Just let us.
RPGs are not meant to be used as a year. Should never be like a yearly or even bi-yearly series. Because you burn out the fans on the formula, which is why people are so tired of the way Pokemon is. Not that the Pokemon formula is bad, but you get it so often, so it's jarring. You get tired of the same game because that's what you've been dealing with.
And this has been going on since Red and Blue, so yeah.
Like the development cycle has gotten progressively faster with each generation. And the other kicker is that we're dealing with a console. HD development is a lot more expensive and time consuming than fucking pixel or 2D development, right? And hell, Game Freak was getting experimental as early as Generation... Well, actually, I would say Generation 4 got a little experimental, but Generation 5 was like full blown, like, we're going to make this a... We're going to make this shit an experience.
Because that's why, and no pun aside, it feels like the black sheep of the Pokemon series.
Yes, Toys R Us literally had the God of Pokemon in their hands, and they were just giving it out the free. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, like, so that's the first thing. The second thing for me is, and I know people are going to get mad at this one, and this is just a personal opinion. I don't imagine everyone's going to agree. I don't think we need fucking any more remakes. I
agree with that.
The last two we've had, which would be Let's Go and Aurus, have been the disappointing side of remakes. Now, Game Freak usually can do good remakes, but once again, like I said, pixel games are easier to do than fucking like 3D games. And I think Let's Go and Aurus both suffer from that rush development cycle. Like
now you're thinking, oh, what about the Sinnoh League? What the Sinnoh region? We can still have a Sinnoh like theme going for Sword and Shield. Maybe some Sinnoh events. But don't make a remake.
Well, and see, the reason why I also say that is, this is the reason why people, like, I'm personally, and I know a lot of other people, are burnt out on Generation 1. Generation 1 is being used as a scapegoat. And part of that is because the fan base dictated that back in, like, 2010, 2011. I'll explain
Actually, let's go down the line for a second with this one.
What?
All right, so Generation 1, obviously Generation 1. But then in Generation 2, you go back to Generation 1 again because you got to go back to Kanto after you get done as post-game for Gold, Silver, Crystal. But it was fine there because it was like it's a sequel to the Gold, Silver, and Crystal were sequels to Red, Blue, and Yellow. And the kicker was that the final boss was you, like from the last game.
Right.
So it works there. Gen 3 did it because they did the remakes for Fire Red, Leaf Green, but they did that because there was no way to transfer Pokemon from Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, Crystal to the new generation of Game Boy Advance games. So they did it as a way to transfer Pokemon.
Right.
Gen 4 did it because in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, you go back to Kanto. So it's just like, oh, Gen 5 I think didn't do it. Gen 5 didn't do it.
The only Gen 5 Kanto references we got was in the form of the World Tournament, and that's just fighting trainers.
Gen 5 didn't really touch
Gen
Kanto.
6 is pretty much Gen 5, but worse in the sense
that Gen 6 did Kanto. It just did it. It did it in a different way. Basically, and then it gave you Kanto starters, and then the Kanto starters had Mega Evolutions, and then most of the Kanto Pokemon had Mega Evolutions.
Also, it's fine if you enjoy Aura's Scrying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're bad for enjoying those games. I'm just saying they don't hold any weight compared to like the original. Like up until Aura's, I could easily say almost every remake. I could say every remake up until that point was better than the original. Aura's was the first game I couldn't do that, and Let's Go to me was just fucking unnecessary. But obviously, Let's Go had a dual purpose, so that's besides the point.
To me, Fire Red and Leaf Green were like the only necessary remakes. I like Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Like I love those games.
Heart Gold and Soul Silver had so much love into it that like people didn't care.
Yeah, I love those games. But after Heart Gold, Soul Silver, I was just like, we don't really need it.
And so the reason why people get burned out on Kanto is the fact that, for one, the reason why I say, and I guess let me quickly explain why I said the fan base is what dictated that. This happened back in Generation 5 in Black and White. It starts in Black and White 2, but it stems from Black and White 1. Where Black and White 1 was very adamant about being like its original region. Like, Black and White 1 was like, listen, here's our new 156 Pokemon. Here's a new adventure. And what did people do? What was people's main complaint back then?
Not only Pokemon look ugly.
They didn't like the designs of the new Pokemon, but they also complained about, why is it I can't catch any Kanto Pokemon until the late game? So what did they add in Black and White 2? They added a bunch of the fucking older generation Pokemon into the regional decks, where they were originally a part of the national decks.
Yes.
And then X and Y was like, well, I guess we gotta keep including the old ones. So X and Y has it. Sun and Moon does it. So does fucking Sword and Shield. There is no like separation anymore. People don't want. It pisses me off as much as people act like they want new experiences from Pokemon. They're the reason why we keep getting old Pokemon so prevalently in the new games.
It's almost like a no matter where you go, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Also, you're right, Zuki. That's literally what it is. We never get to miss Kanto because Kanto never fucking leaves.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're damned. The Game Freak's damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they release a game with no older Pokemon, then they're gonna get crap for it. But if they release a game and put a bunch of older Pokemon, then people will say, well, what about our new Pokemon experience? It's just like, well, what do you want them to do then? Which way do you go about this?
And to be fair, Ryan, so I'll admit I was one of those people who wanted a Hoenn remake. And man, I think immediately I ended up fucking regretting
I think I think you bit off more than you could chew on that.
Well, because the reality of the situation was that Game Freak shouldn't have been making a fucking Hoenn remake. You wanna know why I wanted the Hoenn remake though so bad? It was because
of the love they put Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Well, no, it was because of the oversaturation with Kanto. I was like, please just give me something else that isn't.
You just wanted an escape. Okay.
I needed an escape, and I was just angry that they still did my favorite, my second. Well, at this point, he's probably my second favorite generation. So fucking dirty, on some fucking nonsense. So that's my second thing to change is no more fucking remakes, because once again it feeds into the idea of I can't miss you if you're always fucking here.
Right.
I can't want a remake from you if I get one from you every other year. We've been getting remakes consistently every generation except for Gen 5. Gen 5 was the only one.
I even said this way back in the video that I made when I reacted to the trailer for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I was like, yeah, I'm excited for the new Pokemon game, but I'm a bit weary because when remakes are made, I always feel like it felt like Gen 3's remake was made out of obligation, while the other two were made out of like, they were making them for the sole purpose of bringing Pokemon that otherwise were unobtainable, or they were trying to enhance something that was already done so many years ago. Whereas the Gen 3 remakes, people have been asking for Gen 3 remakes since like pretty much the minute Heart Gold Soul Silver dropped.
Yeah.
So it felt like it felt like this one. It felt so forced.
Mez, the reason why Kanto gets so much hate is because it's not because of Kanto by itself. Part of it's because Kanto's dated. The other but like the other 75% is because they won't leave Kanto the fuck alone.
Right,
But,
and it's so sad because like if you look at it past its nostalgia factor, Kanto's kind of boring. Like it's fun if you know you know what you're doing and you like want to experiment with it like a Nuzlocke run or something. But on its own, it's bare bones.
and so, going from that, I also want to address the third thing, and the third thing is interesting because it's based off of a few interviews that I think Masuda and what's his name, Omori, I forget his name. We're also talking about their game design and how they do things, and it kind of correlates for what we're already used to, which is the fact that Game Freak unfortunately has a bad habit of doing these incremental changes. They never want to they never want to put their foot too far out to the unknown because they're afraid of how the fan bases react. Right. And part of the reason why is because the fan base reacts super negative, or they'll flip so quickly at like just small changes.
Right.
So they end up backpedaling a lot. I feel like Sword and Shield is going to end up being the culmination of that. Oh yeah, it's Omori. Okay. To give you an example, one of the reviews I read was like, and you can see it in some of the routes. I think it was Game Explain's review where they were like, the game looks beautiful and looks massive, but like you're still pretty much like the singular routes, and some of the biggest towns are probably just as big as like Pallet Town or maybe like Celadon City. And then I looked at some of the routes, and the routes look like Sun and Moon routes, and you're like, what the fuck? Why are we still doing this? And I think it's because, and then I heard one of the biggest complaints about the game was something along the lines of like how they kind of backload the latter half of the game with cutscenes and shit, which is obviously going off of the criticism that the people had for Sun and Moon, saying Sun and Moon had too many fucking cutscenes in the beginning of the games. And I'm like, and it all culminates in, okay, here's all these competitive changes and quality of life changes, but the problem is that the shit that was tedious in the old games stops being tedious when you add in quality of life improvements, which means you were allowed to be more reckless with the level design. And one of the best examples I heard was, remember I had mentioned that apparently they made the escape rope a permanent item, right? So that means, in theory, you can make more difficult caves because you always have an item.
Have an escape rope.
Yeah, but that's, you know what they did? It's just, from what I've heard, it's the same kind of cave system as like X and Y's, or like I don't even think no, Sun and Moon had caves. There weren't a lot of them, but there
weren't a lot.
The problem is, from what I've heard, it's like Sun and Moon and X and Y's cave system where it's like really short trudges, and I'm like, no, it's like
because they're too afraid to make a legit dungeon.
Yeah, because people used to hate those dungeons. People used to hate the dungeons. I think Generation 4 was the gen where people were like, fuck you.
And when you tell me that the escape rope is a permanent item, I have a love and hate. Well, not so much for that. It's weird. It's realistic. Like, your rope doesn't explode once you use it. Yeah. Right. So it's realistic. But at the same time, I think the weird, I guess it's just so, like, I never expected it. And I think the issue I have is basically what you just said. Is like, it gives them the room to make a more difficult dungeon. But if they're not going to make a difficult dungeon, then what was the point of giving me a permanent escape rope?
Exactly. And I think that's the problem. They went the way of making modernizing Pokemon, which is why I don't want to sit here and say some fucking nonsense about these games are fucking just a waste of time. No, there were obvious improvements, and there was care into certain things of the game, but the fucking problem boiled down to is that they didn't change the fucking level design to fit the quality of life changes. They thought, okay, we made the quality of life changes, people have an easier time getting through this gen, which is true. Everybody will fucking love going through this gen. I actually make the argument that this generation could be one of the most replayable generations because of how fucking streamlined it is.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the exploration in the dungeons that we enjoyed back then, we could enjoy more now because you have better fucking mechanics built around it.
Like for example, and I don't know if this is confirmed or
But that
not,
would
but I
imply
know
you make it. Go ahead.
I know you can camp, right?
Yeah.
You can camp, eat food, and my guess is that will heal Pokemon as well too,
I've
right?
heard apparently different curry can even revive Pokemon and cure status
Yeah, it can
ailments.
have added effects, and and so you're living off the land essentially, right? So that means you don't have to backtrack to town every time you need a decent healing, right?
Yeah.
So I take that as and you have to find them. You have to it's not just given to you. You have to find it. So it feels more like an RPG in that sense, where there's been plenty of times where I go out and I run out of items and I just use fly to go back to town so I can heal. But then that means I got to go back out because I can't fly to where I haven't been yet.
Right.
So I run into that problem where it's like, okay, especially in Diamond and Pearl, I hate this, where I'm headed to Snow Point City or something, right? But I'm in the snow route where you got to walk slow because you're in snow. But your Pokemon have been so injured because you fought so many trainers. So the only logical way for me to solve this now is either A, I packed a bunch of items before I left, or B, I'm going to have to fly all the way back to the town, heal my Pokemon up, fly all the way back to, or run all the way back to the route to where I was, and then continue on to the route. Where here, you can just set up camp for the night. Yeah. So it feels realistic. The problem with that, though, is that I'm not confident enough in Pokemon to elaborate on that.
And part of and it kind of actually, and I think American Otaku's comment from earlier kind of gets into the core of the reason why. He mentions that one of the reasons why they never put in Battle Frontier and Oris is because Masuda thinks kids don't have the patience nowadays, which kind of gets into the issue of modern game design. A lot of people don't finish Pokemon games, even the old ones. A lot of people.
I was about to say, by the time they even try to do the Battle Frontier, the next game's announced.
Well, and see that's the issue there. Part of it is because of how quick their development cycle is. The other part is that a bunch of people just don't finish those fucking games. And so I think they're constantly fighting, well, if we make it more simple, then people will want to go through it. But I think Pokemon needs to recognize the fact that RPGs are not known to be this fucking popular. And Pokemon only really has its popularity due to its marketability. Right. I think they need to be open about the reality that they may lose some of their general mass appeal, but their core audience would love them more if they just double down. Because here's the thing, the competitive scene will probably be way more positive on this game than they have the last 3 main series titles.
I discussed this in the chat. I discussed this in the chat with the Pokepod and you already. Sorry. I discussed this with you guys in the Pokemon chat that I actually do love the fact that the mints exist, the egg moves are transferable, the vitamins can stack now. All of these things may not mean nothing to your casual player at all. Right. In fact, they mean absolutely nothing to a casual player. But to me, there are really good changes that we've been waiting for a long time. You can hear it. Shofu, Wolfglick, Hayden, these are all competitive BGC players. They're really into this stuff. And the reason for that being is not just because it makes EV and IV training so much easier, but it allows I hit my arm on the desk.
Okay, I was confused by the statement.
Sorry. But it allows for casuals to actually learn what the competitive play is. Now, here's where the problem comes in. And if we get these items but no clear explanation of what these items are or how they can benefit your Pokemon, then that may be a problem. Because then to some people, those items may mean nothing. Like, for example, I remember back in the day, I would get a dire hit or an max attack plus, those temporary items that you use to boost your Pokemon stats in the middle of the battle. Mm-hmm. But they go away after the battle's over. Those things mean nothing to anyone because they're not really explained well enough. Even as a kid, did you ever use a dire hit or X attack as a kid playing Pokemon?
Only as hell did. Only if I was trying to get rid of it.
I sold them.
Only if I was in the middle of the battle and I was like, fuck it, I need to get rid of these.
Yeah, I sold X Attack and XP. Even to this day, I don't really use
And
X
to be
Attack.
fair, it's from what I've heard, the competitive scene. I imagine the competitive scene for fucking Sword and Shield is gonna be crazy.
Oh, of course.
Even with all these issues and the national dex bullshit, like the competitive scene will fucking thrive in this shit.
It's crazy, Terrell. When we went to Pokemon Worlds, remember when we showed off that trailer?
Yeah.
And we watched it on the big screen?
Yeah.
All of that stuff I was excited for was mostly for competitive play.
Yeah, that was literally a competitive.
And it's clear they didn't reveal any. They didn't reveal any new Pokemon. What did they? They showed off Galarian Weezing's ability because they kept it a secret when they showed Galarian Weezing off.
Yeah.
Then they said, "Hey, his ability is to shut down everybody else's ability."
Yeah.
Then they showed off an item. They showed off room service. A room service basically means that a move like Trick Room. One Pokemon will get the added benefit of stat boost after the Trick Room has been done. That means nothing to any casual player, but to people who competitively battle, this is the first time they've ever introduced an item, first of all, in a trailer.
Yeah.
They've never done that before.
It's obvious. It's
because it's obvious they're pointing out to the VGC player.
It's funny. You can tell that this game, I think they thought this game would hit both itches. That it was more streamlined for the older fans. Because ironically enough, I think the game is more meant for the older fans. But the problem is that you kind of scorn... Because I've heard people complain about the lack of cutscenes in this game. And I'm like, you know why? And it pissed me off because I'm like, I think that was one of Sun and Moon's best points was his character development and story. But because people didn't want to go through a bullshit-ass tutorial, like I said, Game Freak takes their criticisms too far in a lot of cases. So instead of just being like, okay, we'll streamline the tutorial section, we'll throw in the cutscenes, but we'll have it paced better because Sun and Moon suffers a similar pacing issue that X and Y does towards the end of it, where everything kind of hits the fan really fucking quickly. And from what I've heard, this game kind of goes in a very similar direction, and I'm like, this is the shit that that burns fan bases to the ground. People are just kind of tired, but like I said, Game Freak doesn't handle the criticism well. So it's a constant fucking struggle to figure out. And to be fair, development's fucking hard. I'm not gonna say and pretend like game development is easy, but it's like, how the fuck do you create a game that's paced well enough for like a casual fan, but not like slow enough for a fucking competitive like fan who only gives a fuck about getting to the late game to get stuff.
And the weird part is that the messed up part about Pokemon is that the way Pokemon, there's so many fans you have to please. You have to please shiny fans. You have to please people who just want to catch all the Pokemon. You got to please people who want a good story. You got to please people who want a competitive training to be easier. There's so many audience members you have with Pokemon.
Oh, by the way, Richie's here. And he wants to ask about what we thought about the experience share and how it's constantly on.
Most RPGs do that.
Yeah, most modern RPGs do that.
Yeah, Pokemon's actually finally catching up to that.
And the irony is, from what I've heard from reviews, people said, well, because the game knows you have it on, the game is scaled appropriately. And I was like, as long as the game is scaled appropriately, I'm cool with even the way they handle Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, how it's not available in normal fights. It's only available in, I think, like gym fights, when I heard. And I'm like, yes, because that's the whole fucking point. The problem I had with Megas is that essentially once you got Mega Evolution, you broke X and Y. Because you could just go through most battles and just steamroll the fuck out of them.
Because other trainers didn't know how to Mega Evolve. And
you didn't. That was my issue. I think that was my issue with X and Y. X and Y never scaled the difficulty up for where you were at. They made you OP as fuck pretty early on, but they never gave your opponents the same tier of like power. So you always felt like you were gonna just run through shit. So go ahead.
I was gonna say and I'm just tackling onto the XP thing that was talked about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because XP for all has been a thing since like Final Fantasy 1, where if you're involved in the battle, you get it, and essentially your Pokemon party is involved in the battle. So the thing about the XP though, and I think this is something that we as Pokemon players have sort of just made
to compensate for the fact that the Pokemon that's in battle currently gets the XP is that what we'll tell ourselves is, okay, we'll keep a weaker Pokemon out so that it can get XP and then switch out. Essentially, this just makes it easier. All it really does is that if you catch a weak Pokemon, you don't have to constantly switch it out into the new Pokemon so that it can gain XP. Essentially, what this means is now the newer Pokemon can gain XP even while it's not actively in the battle, which the younger Pokemon with the lower level is going to get more level up until it catches up eventually with the older Pokemon on the team. So it's never really been an issue. I think we've just been playing Pokemon like in this weird way so long.
We gimped it, essentially.
We made that. Yeah, we made that because honestly, when you really start to think about it, I don't want to keep switching out Pokemon in order to do that because it was hell. Where like if you have all of your team strong, and then you gotta bring the weaker Pokemon up to everybody else.
It's something Shofu said. There's a difference between tedium and challenge. I feel like a lot of people thought that a lot of the changes for this game make the game easier, and I'm like, no, it just took out the bullshit that was already in the game. Essentially,
what this does is solve your grinding problem because grinding was a bitch. If let's say, this will definitely help Nuzlocke players too. Let's say you're doing a Nuzlocke run. And your Pokemon dies. One of your Pokemon dies. So you catch a replacement. Well, now the replacement doesn't have to work so hard to catch up to your current team.
Yeah.
Because now he's just gaining experience with the team now.
Also, Ultimate Zuki, that's pretty much what it is. That people view grinding as a challenge.
And if you want to make Pokemon harder, trust me, there's ways to make Pokemon. Don't teach it new moves. Stop it from evolving. Don't catch only one Pokemon on your team. There's tons of challenges to make it harder. Switch the game from shift to set. You name it. That's one of the things with Pokemon is that there's so many different ways to play it. I think that's that's the biggest appeal of it. The problem is that they don't elaborate on it.
Right. And from what I've heard, this game, I guess the other thing we could to mention is the stupid bullshit with the fact that there's an item for background music that you have to get instead of it just being a part of me. That's just a weird fucking design choice. I don't really understand.
Like a value. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what to say.
Part of me, and it depends on when you get it. Like if I get it like early in the game, I'm just gonna be like, why the fuck wasn't that in the menu?
And I don't want this to seem like we're trying to be like game for apologists or defenders or anything. Obviously,
no, I think
if anything, we played the game so long, we can point out the real flaws that Pokemon.
Yeah, Game Freak is always. I mean, listen, Pokemon games have been flawed. I'm just more frustrated with the fan base for one, acting like these are new problems. When you sit there and show me a sequence of Zamazenta turning 180 degrees, I'm like, bitch, I saw that last year. Right. With the game that everyone praised to death and no one didn't say shit about it. Like, that's the shit that pissed me off. I was like, you didn't have an issue with it a year ago, but now you have an issue with it? And it kind of goes into my overarching issue was the fact that the Dex was not the problem. The Dex is not the thing that you should have been on the fucking stadium or podium, whatever the fuck, crying your heart out about. There were a bunch of other fucking issues you should have been addressing, but no one gives a shit. And so now the whole narrative is about these stupid fucking models and these stupid fucking animations. I could give a fuck less about the Pokemon not being fluid. Granted, it's not like I'm against them being fluid, but I want you to fix the game through level design and mechanics and shit. The quality of life changes this game seems to be bringing. That's the shit I care about. I can take a dumbass cutscene of Zamazenta turning of gliding 180 degrees if I have more dungeons to explore, which is why I said the game coming out is going to be viewed as kind of like a mixed fucking bag. But if you spend the next 3 years putting out patches, DLC probably won't do anyone any favors because a lot of people will just say, fuck you, I'm not buying it. But change the game. Because I think that was the main thing about this game that people were pissed off about. And you know the kicker about this is, Tyrone? Nobody was talking any shit before the National Dex came out. Before the news of the National Dex came out, when the first few
told you, I call it the Gen 3 syndrome, because in Gen 3 we got hit with this exact same thing. I think the problem was that it was just a younger problem.
It was a younger problem and people weren't as frustrated with the series.
Right.
Like, the frustration with the series has grown immensely probably for the last few years.
I'm like, Ruby and Sapphire did this exact same thing. Any different than what Ruby and Backfired it. And if you look at Pokemon as a whole, you name one Pokemon game where you can just buy that one game and you have all the Pokemon. No.
And also,
No.
people are saying that supposedly the game's 14 hours, but that varies from person to person.
Yeah,
So-
I would say that depends on skill set.
That, and you're also talking about people who got the game early, who are just blazing through the games.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of, we're both getting the game at launch. I forgot.
I'm
People were asking us in the chat, and I forgot to answer.
Yeah, I'm getting the dual pack. I'm getting the sword.
Also, thank you for 52 fucking people.
Yeah, you guys stayed up late for us. All right.
This is insane. I think it's because it's Pokemon.
So, wait, let me ask this then,
Go ahead.
Because I know I also have to tackle, like, the other end of the issue, too, where it's like, what happened? The Game Freak. So weird. It was like a thank you, Game Freak, and then a Game Freak like immediately after.
I don't understand what the thank you Game Freak part is for.
The thank you Game Freak was just because, like, I think people have been so ignorant and harassing them so hard to the point where they had to delay, like, a pre-release event that was supposed to happen, I think in Japan somewhere or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they delayed that because people were threatening to, like, be ignorant and harm people and stuff. So they as an apology, a lot of people went on Twitter and was like, thank you, Game Freak, for the many years of Pokemon and blah, blah, blah. But then immediately after that, Game Freak lied.
Look.
Posts were showing up.
And I want to be fair. There are some people who are acting like Game Freak has done no wrong, which is a bunch of bullshit. Game Freak is easily done wrong. And unfortunately.
Like, to me, my problem is that they take baby steps.
They take baby steps. They drag the fucking feet. They have a shitty fucking release schedule. They over rely on nostalgia for at least these last few gens have heavily over relied on fucking nostalgia, and it's hurt. I feel like they've hurt the overall quality of the games because they don't handle. There's a bunch of shit to rag on them about, and I do agree with people who are like, listen, stop telling people that they are not allowed to complain about it. Listen, no matter what camp you're in, you're allowed your opinion. The only people I have an issue with are the people who are fucking assholes who for some reason feel the need to like rag on the developers as people. Like, fuck all that, all right? Mm-hmm. I don't care if you have issues with the mechanics or the story or the gameplay. Those are fair criticisms. The moment you start talking about Masuda, him as a person, and the tweet I saw that went around that pissed me the fuck off was they went, Iwata would be rolling in his grave if he saw Sword and Shield.
Yeah, that's disrespectful.
And I'm like, first, don't use a dead man to further your dumbass fucking arguments on Twitter.
For a game that pretty much we haven't played yet. The game's not out yet.
Oh, Jazz is saying that the thank you Game Freak came because of the rumor article that the morale was low.
Yeah, that. Yeah, okay.
And here's the kicker, because someone brought this up. How do we know that the models that they brought, that they even showed earlier today, were like legit? Because people, like, literally all you could have done, you could have just taken the models from Sun and Moon or Let's Go and then just duplicated them and be like, oh, look, it's the same models. Like, there was not enough in those images to prove it. It was just that, oh, look, there's two models and they both look similarly.
I've never seen people break down Pokemon so much based on, like, the model, frame rate, all of these technical things that never came up in earlier Pokemon games.
It came up, but it was never handled in the way. You know why? It's because Game Freak's PR fucked them this gen. When they said that they were taking time to focus on, like, quality animations, motherfuckers took that one statement, fucked them for, like, 6 months.
I guess because there was no way. I agree. That's not the way you should have. That's not the way Game Freak should have came in. I think the problem though is that they also can't say, well, we're a company that's got company time. We can't afford to release Pokemon when we want to, so we have to release it on a due date. I think that would have been a little worse to say than what they did say. I don't know. I don't think there was any way around it. And that's because Pokemon's always been held down by these obligated due dates that they have, based solely on the anime and then the card game and all the other stuff they've invented around it.
Also, I'm gonna grab the picture that people were asking about, like the Iwata photo, which was on some next level fuck you.
Yeah. One of the things I feel like Game Freak needs to understand is that Pokemon is a video game franchise first and everything else sort of second. Because that's how they started off. The whole game started off as a video game. And personally, for me, the Pokemon games I've been playing as of the 3D generation have been sort of like almost like I don't want to say a chore to play, but like a.
They're just not as fun.
Yeah, once I play them, I'm playing them on the mindset
They become
that
a one and done thing, and they should never have gotten to that point.
And the reason for that being is because they're so afraid. I think it's so sad to me that Gen 5 was like the last, like, I'm satisfied with Pokemon game fully. And it's the one where they stepped outside of their comfort zone the most.
See, and I respected that. But everyone in their grandma was like, fuck you, that's not the important part. And I'm like, what do you mean? That's not the important part?
And in a sense, Sword and Shield has earned a lot of my respect just based on how they've decided to market some of the things here. Oh my goodness. Ugh.
Yeah, it was like do it for him. That's what.
Yeah, one of the things I do like that Sword and Shield has to do is I think what you said a long time ago is still relevant, where they said they weren't going to add all the Pokemon and they stick with their guns on that.
I can respect you cutting the decks. That doesn't piss me off. What pisses me off was the fact that it was so easy to prove that like there was a hint of, not that there was, well, I guess in a sense people would call it laziness. I guess arguably that's what it was. It was laziness in the fact that they still are doing baby steps. And I almost want to go get the quote that explain why they do baby steps. And I'm like, I get it, and I think the reason was because of the fans. They were afraid, they don't want to alienate fans. And I'm like, I get it, but you're making things worse because then you come off as an IP and a franchise that doesn't do shit. Like, that's my issue with it. Then you come off as complacent and lazy. Like Zelda, I mean, let's be real here, and people want to pretend like this isn't true. Zelda for a while had became a pretty repetitive ass series.
That is true. Breath of the Wild, literally a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time, fucking Majora's Mask was different. But Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, for the most part, follow the same. Even Majora's Mask follow the same general premise every fucking game. And for a while, people were like, "Damn, Zelda has some outdated fucking mechanics." And Breath of the Wild came out, and Breath of the Wild was an example of them being like, look, we're going to commit to this idea and fuck whatever comes from it. Because people have issues with Breath of the Wild, but people also recognize that Breath of the Wild, everything that was in Breath of the Wild, regardless if you loved it or hated it, was following that singular idea of we're going to focus on freedom. That seemed to be like the word that they had to keep ringing in their heads. Freedom, exploration, like that was their goal. The problem with Pokemon is that like you get like a pie chart out and like you cut it in half and it says casual and competitive, and at that point you start making other cuts and shit. Game Freak unfortunately starts going from like half a pie to like thirds, into like fourths, into like 1/5 of a pie, where like certain sections are for certain spaces. So like the accessibility is like at least a 3/4 of the damn pie. And I'm like, this is the shit that gets you in trouble. You're gonna have one of these days you're gonna have to just say fuck it and take like a full-on risk. And that day's getting closer and fucking closer because you're so scared of yourselves. And I get it. It's intimidating. If you were a development of a multi-billion-dollar franchise, like I think the biggest media franchise in the world, you kind of don't want to rock the boat. But at the same time, people...
If you fall, there's no other way to go except get back up. So
that, and I think what they don't understand is that their core base is there to hold them down. We will hold you down if we know that you put it all in there. That's the reason why people love Gen 5 so much. Gen 5 was a game where you were like, fuck it, this is what we're doing. And you stuck to it, and I
To
respected
hell with
you
the
for
consequences,
it.
yeah.
And we respected the shit out of you for it. That's not the case anymore because you're afraid of fucking the criticism you get. Even though you always get criticism because you're running because you're making a franchise that makes over $1 billion fucking dollars. It's ridiculous.
I think one of the problems that Game Freak has too, they want immediate success. And Gen 5 success was not immediate at all. It was actually received very poorly. Guess who are the ones that stuck with it? It's you and me, and the hardcore Pokemon gamers to this day will praise Gen 5. But that wasn't the case at first. I liked it when I played it. But I'm saying I still like it when I play it. The hardcore fans of Pokemon stuck around so long and praised Gen 5. Then Gen 5 ended up getting all this praise afterwards. But it didn't get it immediately when it came out. It got most of the praise years after Gen 5 was no longer relevant. Like well into Gen 6's lifespan, I think was when Gen 5 was starting to get like, oh yeah, that's right, Gen 5's good.
Yeah. Because it's...
Which is sad.
Yeah, because it shouldn't have been that late.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what it is. It's like, oh, success is never going to just blatantly show itself. Sometimes it just takes time and appreciation. And that's unfortunately what Game Freak doesn't realize is like whatever they get at face value is what they roll with, unfortunately.
I want them to understand that like the fans will hold them down as long as they give it their all. Because the problem, regardless of even if I think Gen 8 has a bunch of good and great changes to it, Gen 5 is not a giving it their all kind of game. Just based off what we've seen. Gen 5 is a pretty middle of the road kind of game. I still arguably will believe that it will probably be the best 3D game we get. Even with Sun and Moon, probably having better characters and shit. I would say overall, X and Y, Sword and Shield have a chance to be the best 3D games we've gotten. But, like, it doesn't hit as hard when you realize that, like, the door is wide open. Because if nothing else, as much as I kind of hate the way this fucking National Dex thing is kind of spiral out of control, the one thing is that eventually this was going to happen one way or the other. There were just cleaner fucking ways for it to happen.
Yeah, because, and just me personally, because when I heard about the Dex thing and just how it all went down, I'm just like, you guys, this is Pokemon we're talking about. You know they're not. This isn't the last. People kept treating it like this was the last Pokemon game, and there's no possible way the Pokemon are gonna return. And it's like, guys, you know that Pokemon does this, right? You know they've been releasing 2 Pokemon games. May not have all the Pokemon in it. They're gonna release more games that you transfer or trade over, like last time. Like, this isn't new. They've done it before.
Right.
I think the issue here is that it's a combination of the hatred and fast action that the fandom made, while at the exact same time the hesitant, timid actions that Game Freak's making, and the fear of being hated so much that caused this otherwise small problem to be a mountain. A mountain came from a molehill, unfortunately. And it was a combination of not just the fan base, but also the franchise itself.
The way I look at it is that I feel like Game Freak, I'm serious, I want Game Freak to take the situation and look hard at themselves. Because I think the problem is that they don't look hard at themselves. What they fucking do is they look at like the surface level complaints and then kind of make a jerk reaction off that. This is why I want them to take time off. Be like, listen, fucking hold out for like at least a few months, at least a year, and literally
don't even announce the next Pokemon.
Well, no, they don't want to do shit. I want them to like legit just look at the criticism and understand where it is. Because if they bring in the next gen and the next gen just has all the Pokemon back again, one, it makes you look like a bunch of fucking liars for this gen, and two, that doesn't fix the fucking problem. I need them to get it. I don't need them to fucking just look at the criticism and be like, I guess they just want all the Pokemon back. I want you to really look at the criticism and think about it and come to the right conclusion. And you know what the next game they should make is? A fucking passion project. Regardless if it makes sense or not, make a Pokemon game that you want to make. Fuck the age demographic. Fuck the difficulty. Just make the game you want to make, because I promise.
Because as we can see it, obviously we see that they have the potential. Pokemon Black and White are that.
I'm telling them because I'm like, I promise you, people will at the very least respect your shit because they'll understand that you didn't fucking buckle. You made the game you wanted to make, and I promise you it'll end up being one of the best games you ever made.
Right, because the games that I'm seeing now feel like you ever know.
It feels like when you're in college and instead of you can study to get an A on the test, but you also know you can kind of just skate by with a C.
Yeah.
This feels like them skating by with a C.
I was gonna use a weirder reference. I was gonna say, you know how like when you start, like if let's say you started a lemonade making business or whatever, and like when you start off and you're small, the lemonade tastes better, but then as you grow and become like you make multiple standees and it becomes a conglomerate, and they all are made out of machines now instead of people. It starts tasting weird and it tastes generic. That's what Pokemon's been feeling like lately. And the reason they're doing it is because now it's not about making it. It's not about making. Weirdly, they're acting like it's not about making the Pokemon game. It's about making a product to meet a deadline.
Yeah, it's become a little bit too homogenized.
Yeah.
Although Ryan Sword, you do bring up a good point that most of the time people don't know what the fuck they want, which is why it's funny when people bitch about what they want.
Yeah, when we boil down to it, you can make the perfect game, and I'm sure somebody will be like, fucking Ho-Oh's wings or something. So somebody will find something to bitch about.
Excuse me, sir. There are 2 feathers that are too off to the right. You piece of shit. I think you need to.
Yeah, that's what's really gonna come down to is like you're not gonna make a Pokemon game, but I guess real briefly, what would your ideal Pokemon game have then?
It's hard because I don't want to mention things that
Oh yeah, Sword and Shield's coming out. That's right.
I feel like what really we should do, and we'll do it, is that we'll beat. This is, like I said, this is like the last Pokemon related stream or talk before the game comes out. I don't want to do the future Pokemon video until after I've played and beaten Sword and Shield. So I now know everything that's in that game and the game's pros and cons, not based off of fucking leaks, not based off of people who are just trying to.
Yeah, I will, and I want to tackle that too. Is that this is the one Pokemon game, unless you. This is the one Pokemon game that's actually been kept mostly under wraps for the most part.
Well,
mostly due to the criticisms, but
I mean, no, I think it's been kept mostly under wraps due to how Game Freak handled it, which people bitched about that, saying, "Well, I still want to see the starter evolutions." Bitch, how dare you? Like, these are the same people who complain about not being able to catch old Pokemon in the newer games. But then complain about not seeing new Pokemon.
Not seeing the new Pokemon, right?
It's like at that point, I can't fucking please you. I want to, when I talk about Sword and Shield, I want to have my own personal experience with it. I don't want to fucking go off of other people's opinions of people bitching about an animation that turns. Because let's be real here, as a Pokemon fan, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I'd be like, all right. The reason why it's so glaring now is only because it's being overly emphasized on. But the shit's always existed. It's existed at the very least for 6 fucking years.
I've never really paid attention to the technicals in Pokemon because I know Pokemon always fucks up technically in some way, shape, or form. Have you played Gen 1? Have you played Red, Blue, and Yellow?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's all I really got to say.
Okay. For me, I guess if I want to end it off on that note with Pokemon games, I've been playing Pokemon games for more than 20 years, so
the majority of our lives.
Yeah, pretty much most of our lives. And I think the thing is, I've never been fully satisfied with how they've been handling the games. I honestly feel like they've been in a never-ending. That's why Gen 5 was so good to me, because it felt like the most unique version of what they can do with what they got. I think overall is that when you have a game with essentially more than 1,000 characters, you were going to run into this problem eventually. And Terrell pretty much hit the nail on the head. Is like, stop making so many damn games. Slow down. Pokemon needs to, just slow down for a second.
Yeah.
Slow down, absorb their settings, use what they have to their advantage, and know that, hey, while you can't please everybody, at least put in the effort to try to, make a game that focuses. I would say, if you were my ideal thing that they should focus on, that Pokemon has essentially, just focus on the exploration aspect, because Pokemon are essentially creatures and you can find them in different areas. And remember what Satoshi Tajiri, the guy who made the damn thing, he made Pokemon off the idea that he was searching for bugs. He was searching for bugs, and he traded the bugs he didn't have. He traded with other people, and then he saw the bugs traveling across a cable line, which was why the link cable was made. So focus on that. Tackle the exploration value of Pokemon.
Yeah, it's essentially, ironically enough, it essentially boils down to, that it's like my non-girlfriend. I can't miss you if you're always here.
Exactly.
You need to be gone for a little while.
Right.
And the kicker is that if Sword and Shield's improvements are what I think it is, they're already halfway there. I think, like, if Sword and Shield's improvements are where I think they're at, I think Sword and Shield's improvements are like all the quality of life shit. They just need to get the fucking level design right. And that's insane. That means you've already gotten so fucking close to where you need to be. Just give us the good fucking level design.
Right. As far as story, because I know a lot of people can cutscenes. There is a way to show off story without showing too many cutscenes.
They just need to. They need to learn better pacing with the story.
I mean, hell, remember in the Game Boy games, they have cutscenes they had cutscenes and traditionally, like, for example, implement the story into the gameplay. Like, I know one of your rivals, Crystal, he hated Pokemon. He mistreated Pokemon. But you see at the end of the game that his Golbat evolved into Crobat, which can only be done by happiness. So that means he obviously got better. It's like, implement some of that. Do stuff like that where the gameplay and the story work synonymously together.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I'm just saying. It's like you said before at the start of this, just slow down a bit, Game Freak. And as for the fans, let's not be so, like, I'm not saying don't be mean to a $1 million fucking conglomerate. But I'm saying don't first of all, don't harass people. Don't be mean.
Don't use a dead man for your fucking arguments.
Right. Don't be ignorant. Don't be disrespectful. These are still people. These are still people working.
Criticism and being a dick are two different things.
Yeah. The best thing you can do to criticize is what we do. Make videos, make reviews, do constructive criticism. Constructive criticism, as we've already seen from Sonic's trailer, makes things better. Constructive criticism is what works.
Yeah.
Harsh criticism causes problems, causes difficulties. So if you're gonna
criticize, with harsh criticism is that people can't tell if you're just screaming or if you're trying to, like, being like, listen, Game Freak, I want you to improve the animation, versus, you piece of shit company, fix the fucking animations, you dog shit company. Like, you're essentially saying the same thing, but those two different inflections make a hell of a difference.
Exactly. It's all about content.
You won't even get through the front fucking door versus being able to at least have a conversation.
Yeah. So
it's all about how you approach an individual. It's like everything else in life. You want to get a job, you don't call your potential boss a dickhead. That's how it works. But it is fucking. It's now. It's
let's end it.
It's already
kill it.
It's already 12 o'clock. For like Tyrone, and for me, it's like one.
It's 1:22.
Yeah. So like, we're gonna get out of here. I just want to throw this out. Thank you for the 40 fucking 6 of you. Oh my
God, yeah, that's crazy.
Yo, and that's only a drop. That's only like a 5 viewer drop from like an hour ago, where we started at like 50. Like, that's crazy.
We were at 52. I think that was the max number.
Which is nuts. The most I ever get for these things is like 25 to 30 at most. But Pokemon
is about Pokemon.
Pokemon will always do that. No matter where my channel goes in the future, Pokemon will always be a part of it. Therefore, you guys will always have something to watch. With that being said, Tyrone, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. I feel like I needed to say a lot anyway, because I said a lot of these things on Poke Pod, but this is the one I feel like this is the most appropriate time to lay out all those cards on the table.
Everyone in the chat, go subscribe to Tyrone's channel. It's Tyrone the God 3. Subscribe to him on YouTube.
I will be recording Pokemon Sword, so you will get content.
Yeah, you will get Pokemon Sword content from him. I probably won't record it. I'll probably just be playing the games and giving you guys like a very in-depth video. So expect probably like a 20 or 30 minute video coming from me about the games. Might be longer depending on how far it goes. You'll get a stream, well not a stream, but a playthrough from Tyrone. So Tyrone got 3 on YouTube. It's Tyrone _TG3 on Twitter.
On Twitter, it's just Tyrone. Tyrone T. Oh, I changed it. It's Tyrone the Guy 3, and then at Tyrone TG3.
Okay, yeah. And then Twitch is just at the Tyrone the Guy 3.
Yep.
So follow him on the socials, subscribe to him, support your boy. Thank you for showing up. Thank you guys for the support. Life's a game, play to win, and enjoy the games without being ruined by the toxic ass community, because people are dicks, and that doesn't matter what fandom you're in. And with that, good night, because my head hurts. No, I'm lying.
Good night.
Good night, because our eyelids are falling.
Yep.